Hello, hi, and good morning. Good morning to the Expat La Facebook group. I'll just give a minute for anyone to join us this morning if you are up for it. I know a lot of you hang out on this group because you have a lot of questions about housing in Singapore, and I'm hoping that from today onwards, I can help you out with that. So those who are around, hopefully you can join me live right now. And if you're not joining me live right now, that's not a problem at all, because you can always replay this video at any point in time. I think a lot of you are going to find this information that I'm going to share really helpful, because it's a question that I keep seeing come up, right? So before we start, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Nadia, right? And I am a realtor here in Singapore, yes. And you might have seen me around on the group, actually. I try to reply to as many posts as possible, and I try to be as helpful as I can when someone has a question about mold, or who should be the one doing the professional cleaning. Once in a while you've seen me respond. But I've also worked directly with quite a number of you. I've worked with you on finding your home in Singapore, especially in the past year. I think I've worked with quite a few of you, and it has been an absolute pleasure, right? And today I'm here to talk about rent, which is an absolute hot topic on this group. I know that it gets discussed a lot, whether you're in a rental contract right now, or you're looking for a new lease. I know it gets discussed extensively on this group. And boy, have things been really tough for renters, especially in the past year, maybe even slightly more than that, right? It's a little less tough if you're in the landlord position, as many of you have noticed. But in the position of the renter, it has been a little bit challenging. Rent has been at its highest in the last 6 years. It's never been this high for all that time. And I keep hearing the same thing from the expats that I've worked with in the last year. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? There's a whole bunch of people leaving the country. Surely that means demand has gone down. Surely that means there's an excess of supply. Why would rent prices go up and by that much in the past year, right? So the funny thing is that the Singapore population did actually dip, and it dropped for the first time in a very long time. So you're right. In a way, you're absolutely right. There have been people leaving the country, right? A lot of foreigners have left pandemic related. There have been loads of travel curbs for a long time, still now, although it's easing up. And there has been a massive loss of employment as well. The population actually dropped by 18,000, right? Ever since the pandemic. And I might not have the latest numbers, but that's already a large enough number. So yeah, in a way it's true, right? So there is a whole pool of people that's no longer available to rent. But unfortunately, there are also other factors in play. And I've been explaining this to the people I work with. And I thought, if a lot of the people I'm working with have been having these questions about what's happening in the market, why is rent high right now, then I'm sure all the rest of you will probably have the same question. So I hope to be able to help you today answer that question. Not only that, but also share a little bit on what 2022 might look like, because that's also a question I get. Is it going to ease up? Should we wait? Should we extend our lease, for a year and then maybe look around later when things cool down a little bit? So is it going to? What's it going to look like, right? So we're not clairvoyants, we're not able to tell the future, but working with a great team that is very much in the know, being exposed to real estate all the time, every day, gives us a lot of insight, so we can share to our best knowledge, what 2022 is going to look like, right? And most importantly, how should you navigate this? Right, so that leaves the question behind. Great, okay, so that's how it's going to look like. How do you advise that we navigate this? Okay, so I'm going to share a little bit about that. But first, let's get into, why is this happening really, right? So you'd be surprised to know that rent has been driven actively in the last year or so by, I studied economics a little bit, although I did terribly in economics at university. I know one thing: demand and supply, right? So when there's a lot of demand and a low supply, that is when prices go up, right? So that simple thing I did remember, and I did get that question right on my exams. But what's driving these things? Okay, so yes, demand has gone down because a lot of expats have left the country, but surprisingly, it's actually locals who have been driving the demand up. How and why, right? So you might have noticed, especially in 2020, when the pandemic first started, there has been a large impact on migrant workers. I think this is one of the largest factors that has affected rent in the last couple of years, right? Migrant workers, you remember the lockdowns, how much restrictions there were on migrant workers, we remember how high the numbers were amongst that population, right? So as a result, obviously, most of these migrant workers were in Singapore or are in Singapore to work on construction. HDB construction, which we call BTO, built to order, that is. And some of these projects, because of the impact on the migrant workers and their inability to either come in or to work, even if they're in the country, has caused massive delays in these housing projects, which are meant to house local Singaporeans. Some of the delays have been up to a year, so it's quite massive delay. What does that mean? So that means people who have had plans to move into their homes, have had long-term plans, because some of these homes they apply for a good 3 years in advance, and they've had a long-term plan on, okay, by this date we're going to end staying here and we're going to move into our new home. They've had to delay their plans, and some of them have been rendered without a place to stay, right? So a lot of these people have been looking into the rental market to for housing, right? To have a home, right? A lot of them don't want to. Many people who apply for BTO HDB flats are new families, couples who recently got married, so their life plans are going on, right? So maybe a year before they move in, they probably got their marriage done, they have plans for kids, they have plans for their career, and they're not exactly wanting. Some of them are living separately, individually in their parents' homes still, and they don't want their life plans to be impacted by the fact that housing isn't ready. They want to have their kids, they want to start planning, they don't want to sit around and wait. So instead of just waiting still in their current accommodation, they rent. And this has been one of the factors that has pushed up demand, right? So that's one. What else has pushed up demand in the local population? Really fun acronyms you might remember and probably never forget from the pandemic: WFH, work from home, and HBL, home-based learning. I think we don't mind remembering work from home. I don't mind working from home still. I mean, not me personally, but I know my husband doesn't mind, remembering WFH, work from home is okay, right? But HBL, I think we're happy to keep work from home. We want to bury HBL. And I think, in Singapore, many young adults live with their parents, right? Many young adults live with their parents due to Singapore culture, due to Asian culture, as well as due to, some purchasing policies with flats, that don't allow singles to purchase. And of course, the prices of homes in Singapore is quite high in general. So that's a bit of a barrier. So many young adults live at home. But, because of the lockdowns and because of work from home and HBL, we've been forced to be in each other's faces all the time. I think you guys all have experienced this. But in Singapore family homes, it tends to be a little bit more challenging because they tend to be multi-generational. So you have the parents, you have the young people, young adults, you have maybe grandchildren in the house, maybe not, and it can get really crowded. I remember when I was working for media, and I was doing sales, right? I was doing advertising sales for media, and I came across, I did a Zoom call with someone, she was a marketing manager in an FMCG, and her father walked by, not fully dressed. And I can imagine that, she might have felt, a little bit, okay, I know this is not professional. And can you imagine how many of those scenarios happen when people work from home, right? So it's been really challenging. So what has happened is that, you know, the demand for rental homes went up again when these young people decided, I've got enough, I need my own space. I need my own space, I need to look professional when I do my Zoom calls, or I need a shared flat at least, you know, I need to share with a couple of working young people and have my own space. So that also drove demand up, right? Okay, here's another one. Here's another factor that maybe some of you we have not discussed when we talked about why rental prices are up, because we keep thinking, you know, rental equals to expats, rental equals to expats. Something else that has been on the rise and still rising right now are resale prices. So these are prices of not new homes, but homes already owned that are being put up in the market. Resale prices, you know, have been, you know, extremely hot for a while now. So what does that mean? People who own homes right now, especially those who own HDB homes and are thinking of upgrading to a condo, you know, they want to go to the next step. I have an HDB, it's made a little money, I want to go and move in a condo now. Oh my God, resale prices are really hot right now. Let's do it, right? Let's do it. Let's sell our home because we want to take advantage of, I mean, who wouldn't, right? Who want to take advantage of good price for your home as soon as possible. Let's put it in the market. You know, it's going to get snapped up because people know the prices are still going to go up. So let's put our homes up in the market right now. They do that, but they're not quite ready to purchase their new condo. What do they do in the meantime? Having sold, they rent. Yet another bunch of people that have driven and are driving a rental demand up, and hence rental prices up as well. So do you see there's so many factors that are sort of not so obvious that can drive rental prices up, right? That are coming from the local population, that are, you know, things like even resale prices can somehow have a domino effect on making the rental price go up and affecting everyone else, right? Right, so what else? What else? There's more. There's a couple more. Now, because of uncertainty overseas, a lot of Singaporeans have been rejecting new job assignments that will post them overseas. In a normal year, a whole bunch of Singaporeans would be posted overseas and accepting those roles, moving out with their family, leaving their homes vacant, and then renting those homes out to renters, okay? Because of all this uncertainty that has happened in the past couple of years, a lot fewer have been accepting those roles overseas. So supply has been affected. So there's fewer units up for grabs, right? On top of that, the Singaporeans who are overseas, so I'm talking about students, you know, people who are working overseas, a lot of them have, just like how the expats have left Singapore due to uncertainty, unemployment, you know, pandemic, the same thing, Singaporeans being expats in those countries are also coming back and reoccupying the homes that they otherwise would have rented out, affecting supply, right? So there you go. Not only has demand gone up, on the other end, supply has also gone down. So just the fact that demand goes up already, you know, will drive prices, but the fact that also supply is affected by people staying in their homes or coming back and reoccupying their homes, you know, has been a factor as well. So surprising because, you know, everybody was expecting, you know, the economy to be badly impacted by the pandemic, but really has inflated quite a bit when it comes to rent and sale. And I think some of you have also experienced this when viewing with me or other agents that you work with or by yourself, massive restrictions in viewing. So even long after lockdown was over, long after, what was it called in Singapore? Not lockdown. I can't remember. I think it's a distant memory I'd like to bury as well. But long after lockdown, there were still restrictions in numbers. There were still restrictions in numbers of people that can visit a home when it's occupied. So this impacted viewing, right? You remember, if you were in the market last year, especially if we worked together, you remember how hard it was to get viewings. The moment a piece of property came onto the market and you wanted to look at it, even if the listing was put up an hour ago and you would contact the agent listing it, there was already 20 people in the queue. And then the occupants of the home, the current occupants of the home, would probably put in place certain rules about visiting, like only 2 visits a week and things like that, on top of the fact that you already are restricted in the number of people who come visit a day. Makes it very hard for you to actually even have a look at the place. So what has been happening when people are pushed to their limits, when some of us don't have to move immediately, but some of us have a deadline. You have to move by a certain date. And when they get close to that date, an anxiety builds up, and anxiety gets over them, they will pay the price. They will take homes without viewing them. They will, offer to pay a lot more to get to see the homes, not to see the homes maybe, but to actually secure the homes. And the fact that they are willing to pay more and do less to get the place, or less demanding, I guess, in a way, also drives prices up, because that gives the landlords a lot more security about how easy it is to offload their unit to a renter, and hence it gives them incentive to raise the prices of rent, right? I hope that all makes sense, and I'm sure it does, and explains a little bit what's been happening in the market. Okay, so while that helps explain, why this is happening, so that you have a better understanding of, where it's coming from. Because I think in the first place, everyone was a little bit like, I don't even know where this is coming from. Why are prices going up? People are leaving the country, right? So at the same time, I'm also getting a lot of questions about 2022. When will things settle down? When will, is this the right year to look for a place? Should we stay where we are? Unfortunately, a lot of the times, even when you stay where you are, if you have to renew your lease, consider the fact that you might have to renew it at a higher rate. This can happen, okay, because of the current market. So are things going to settle down a little bit in 2022? I would love to tell you, yes, yes, yes. I want to say that so badly, because I'm totally on your side, right? I want to it makes my job easier as well when I represent you, so that, things are a little bit more even when we're negotiating. I think a lot of us are thinking, let's hang on just a couple months, rental prices will go down, let's hit the town, let's shop, right? Let's shop for a place. And we're all hopeful, but things like construction woes and delays are not going to go away overnight, unfortunately. It's going to take some time to ease migrant workers back into their construction roles and start building again. It's a bit of a catch-up. So I'm going to say, like, 2022 is going to be a little bit of a catch-up year. It's not going to reverse immediately. Could it go that way? Absolutely. But it's not going to be overnight. It's not like, oh, by March, prices should go down and let's shop, sort of thing. And the fact that the construction market is still going to be slower, the consumers have less confidence in buying something that is still in construction, and they're looking then to the resale market. They're looking at, oh, let's take a pre-owned unit then. Let's shop there instead, right? Demand goes up for resale units, prices still go up for resale units, and then people offload their resale units, which is one of the factors we talked about that raise rental prices. So again, as long as resale units are still selling like hotcakes, the people will be offloading and looking for rental places to stay after selling, right? So it's still going to take some time. Plus, borders are opening, people. Borders are opening. People are coming in. People who in the last couple of years have been thinking about working in Singapore, companies that have been waiting to assign projects to their teams in Singapore, to bring people over to start projects in Singapore. And there are plenty of those, believe me, especially in technology. It's just, right? People in technology want to start their projects. They want to send their people over so that they can head these projects, fill up the teams for these projects, and they're just waiting at the door. And the moment the door opens, they're all going to come in. So that's going to increase the demand again for rent. So that's not going to help. VTLs galore are not going to help with easing up the prices just yet. It's going to take some time before things reach a little bit of an equilibrium, I guess, and stabilize, so that rental prices are a little bit easier to swallow. Now, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I think we need to wrap up by talking about how can you navigate this, right? It is out of our control. We can complain about it all day. I'm not big on complaining. But how do we navigate it? Now, given that this is a situation right now and you have to rent, what can you do? Okay, so a little bit of advice, not very, it's not about, how you can manipulate this advice is not going to be about how you can manipulate the actual price. It's going to be really how you can handle and navigate it. I think the first step is accept, right? We just have to accept that this is the way it is right now. Educate yourself, be aware of what's going to happen. Speak to your realtor. If you don't have one, get in touch with me. Keep abreast of how things are going to look like so that you can get to a level where you know, if I have to move out in March, I have to accept the fact that, plan, right? Plan in advance, knowing that prices are going to be higher than you knew them to be when you got your lease right now. Plan ahead and, plan your budgets. If you have to shift some things around, just be very mindful of it. Because I think a lot of us are still very much, and I feel that very much from the market, are very much in a denial phase of like, no, we'll find that gem. We'll find that place that is brilliant, and then also like forgot that the market has gone up. The landlord is not abreast and decided to charge low. I think everybody is looking for that golden nugget. But I think we kind of need to accept that that's not the case, and they're going to be rare anyway, if there is, right? So you'd be surprised how many refuse to accept that right now. So it sounds really logical that I say accept it as a first step, but really, it can be hard, I know. I think a lot of people still think that we can negotiate a rental price down by 15, even 20%. But really, as a guideline, and you want to write this down somewhere, as a guideline, the maximum that you can probably negotiate from asking price in this current market is about 5 to 8%, if at all, because many people are offering at asking or higher than asking at the moment. Fact. Okay. That brings me to the next point, which is keep your search realistic. Okay, keep your search realistic. I cannot tell you how many times a client tells me their budget is 5,000, and then I search for them at 5,500 with the hopes of, maybe negotiating to 5. And then the clients are sending me listings at 6,000, 7,000. Oh, we can negotiate to 5. Keep your search realistic, because what's going to happen is that you're going to see these places, you're going to make offers on them that are a lot lower than, what's being asked, and they will get what they're asking most often. In some cases not, but often they will. And you're going to set yourself up for disappointment, and you're going to build up anxiety, and you're going to get viewing fatigue. Okay, because you're not aiming right. So in this current market, keep your search as realistic as possible. The days are currently asleep, not gone, but asleep, when you can aim very high on Guru and just negotiate on the price, right? It's just not the tenants market right now. It may be again one day, but it's just not the case right now. Another tip that I can give you is consider downsizing, right? Consider fewer rooms. Can the kids share a room? I know that this is not practical for a lot of people, but if you can downsize, take a smaller space, an older condo, a less popular condo, maybe locations that are, let's be realistic. Really, in Singapore, nothing is actually really far away. I know a lot of us want to live in the central so that everything is accessible, and that is great. But really, in Singapore, everything is within reach. So if you can move to an area, or consider moving to an area that's less popular, where rental rates are actually lower, and you can get a nice home, in a less hip and trendy and convenient neighborhood, then do it. Maybe you might even have spare change to get a car so that things are easier, or for bus, a school bus to ferry your kids to school, right? So it could work out. Play with these numbers and see if you can, save some money by living further away from central, and maybe spending more on school bus or transport, right? So that's another tip. Negotiation. When it comes to negotiation, of course, don't sell yourself short. Of course, don't immediately admit defeat. Never. I would never encourage that either. But it's also not the time to be super mega demanding, right? So you want the basics. Of course, you want a clean place. Of course, you want the air conditioning to be done. Of course, you want decent, right? But I think this is also not the time to be, if you really want that place, right? If you really like some place, it's not the time to be playing games, I want to say, with price, and because unfortunately, it's very easy to lose the place at this moment. At this moment, it's very easy to lose the place when you do that. Whenever you can, offer at asking. If a place is listed at 6,000, offer at 6,000. If you can, even more. And this re-emphasizes my tip from before about being realistic in your research, right? So if your budget is 6,000, maybe just look at 6,000, you know, and then offer at 6,000, right? This increases your chances to get the place, because someone else who can afford 7,000 is also looking at that place. And if you offer 5 and someone else offers 6, it's a no-brainer, right? So be realistic in your search, aim where you're at, and if you can, offer at asking. My clients who have offered at asking in the past months have been a lot more successful in securing a place they want faster, right? So you can't, I mean, rewire a little bit the mindset of, you know, I want something fast, I also want it cheap, I want all of it, right? It's not the moment, okay? And of course, you knew that I was going to say this. If you can, have an agent represent you, okay? It doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be me. It can be someone you know, like, and trust. But we really help you facilitate, advise you accordingly, and we have a way to get a good grip on the other party we're negotiating with, because we've been doing this, you know, every day, right? When two agents talk to each other, it also can be quite different when you are talking directly to the landlord's agent, because don't forget, the landlord's agent has his or her best interest in mind, not yours, not yours. And I always tell this to my clients: you as a tenant have every right to be represented as well. I mean, I think a lot of people are like, let's see if we can do this without an agent. Why? Why, when you have every right to be represented as well? Why only allow the other party you're negotiating with to be represented? Why shouldn't you allow yourself to have representation as well? To be protected, to have someone, you know, negotiate on your behalf, to really facilitate the whole transaction. Why shouldn't you have the right to that as a tenant, right? So doesn't have to be me, as I said, but have someone on your side. Have someone on your side. That's the key, right? If you're not able to move right now and you just cannot bear the high rental prices, speak to your current landlord. See if you can get an extension for a year with an exit clause, you know, so maybe a 3-month exit clause, so that if you happen to see something in the market that's perfect, you can exit before the end of that 1 year. So that's what some of my clients have done as well. Yeah, that's it. Unfortunately, we have to swallow the price hike for the moment. And I hope that this live has been useful to you. I know that this is great that I've recorded this, because now I can save it. And when my clients in the future ask for it, I can send them this video to help explain what's been happening to rental prices and why they're up. If you have any other questions for me, or if you wanted me to address any other topics in the coming weeks, because I'll be coming on every couple of weeks to speak about hot topics you're interested in. So if there's a question that's burning, that's not being answered correctly, you just want to know more about something, I always say there are no stupid questions. Whether you're a buyer, whether you're a renter, whether you're in the market to sell the property you have right now, leave me a comment, drop me a direct message, whatever method works best for you. And I will put it on the list of topics to do in the next weeks, or I can just address your question right away. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye for now.